So, good morning and welcome to the third and final day of the ERADA summer course. We're going to have many interesting things for you today. I expect most of you were with us the previous 2 days. On the first day, we had 2 speakers, Bogdan and Andra. On the second day, we had 4 speakers, and today we have 7 speakers for you. Unless, of course, one can't get the mic to work, in which case we'll have 6 speakers, which is still a good number. So, who on earth am I? My name is Owen. I'm a project officer at ERADA. I'm speaking to you from the ERADA office in Brussels, and I'm joined here today by my colleague Alberto Soria, who will be working on the Slido. If you were with us for the previous 2 days, you'll have noticed that Slido is an external website which we use for questions and things like that. So there's a code on the website, slido.com, which you can enter. You can see it on the screen in front of you. I also have it. Actually, thanks, Alberto. It's a code. You can enter that on Slido, and when you go in there, you can address any questions to the speakers that you may have. We will also use it later in the event to poll you, to ask you questions ourselves. And of course, you can also use it for if you want to chat to each other, that's also fine. So feel free to use that. We have 7 speakers today, as I said, so I would really appreciate it if all of the speakers could try their best to stick to their allotted time limits. If you have a 10-minute presentation and it becomes 20 minutes, I may start turning on my webcam and Zoom bombing you, just to remind you. So without wasting any more time, I'm going to introduce to you our first speaker. She has a really interesting presentation for you, actually, which is going to be about how to manage data, which is something I personally need to know more about. Her name is Marina Martinez. She is a Horizon 2020 Program Officer for the Spanish Office for Science and Technology. So if you would like to tell us something, Marina, welcome to the summer course. We can't hear you yet, Marina. Have you checked your microphone?
Okay. So thank you so much for inviting me again another year to the summer course of ERADA. Unfortunately, we cannot be together all, but we can solve it in this way and trying to be as virtually together as possible. So the presentation that I wanted to share with you is one of the aspects. Well, there are 2 aspects regarding the proposal preparation. Yes, regarding the proposal preparation, I'm going to let me to see if I can make it smaller, because otherwise this can disturbing you. Okay, I will put it down here. Okay, super. And now this as well. I will put it in this side, at that side, which is fine. Okay, you have already my presentation. So it's about 2 aspects. One is the data management in Horizon 2020 projects and in proposals previously, and then the ethical aspects. The first one, data management, is something that can, if you don't do it well at proposal level, is what I'm dealing today with you. It's quite possible that you get less score qualification in the evaluation of the proposal, but does not, let's say, eliminates you from the evaluation process or for funding or for receiving funding. The second aspect, the ethical aspects, is something that, depending on the topic and depending on the subject or the societal challenge, like for instance in health, or for instance in reflective society, or even in the security program where I am a national contact point from Spain, it can let's say, make that your proposal will not continue the evaluation first, or well, that even to have a good qualification for receiving funding, afterwards, Commission would decide not to continue the procedure of signing the grant agreement because your proposal doesn't accomplish several, let's say, aspects regarding ethical issues. So how to handle with data management in your proposal? You know that in a collaborative project or for Horizon 2020, your proposal has two parts. One is the A part, which is an online form with several things that you have to fulfill, but you have to do it online. And the second part, the part B, is the technical description. You have to download a template and you must fulfill it. You have big chapters, which are the three ones in chapter 1, excellence, impact, and implementation, and that these three ones you have limit pages for your proposal, and then you have another part which is the chapter 4 and 5, description of the consortium, and then the ethical and security aspects 4 and 5 respectively, that has no limit of pages. So the data management will apply to the section 2 of this technical description, which is the impact. Let's go in detail. So in detail, we have in this technical part, you have, as I have said, two files, two Word files. The first is limited number of pages, and in the second chapter, in the chapter of impact, you have the expected impacts where you can match your proposal with the impacts of the topic. And the second part of this chapter is a part named by Commission, the way of maximize the impact of your project. So here you have the dissemination and exploitation plan, and then the communication activities. So in the exploitation of the results, is where it's much more appropriate to explain how you are going to manage the data that you are going to use in your proposal. Here I have put some real life example of a project that is running and has been approved, where you see that they have put it in this chapter in the part of the maximize the impact of your project, and they have put it after the business plan where they explain how they are going to manage this data and how they are going to deal with this let's say points that I'm going to explain right now. So the data management plan, I think that can have many points, but the essential ones can be summarized as this. So you have 6 essential things that you have to tackle in the explanation of the data management of your project, which is first to explain, number 1, what sort of data is going to be used in your project, how it's going to be collected, how it's going to be generated, if this data is coming from a previous project or previous database, how are the conditions of using this database. Then the second part is much more technical. You can explain what sort of standards for managing the data and what sort of standards has this data that you are using, if they are following a specific, let's say, format and for using this data. And afterwards, you can explain what will be the format of the outcomes of the data if your project is also going to generate some data as well. The third point that you have to deal in this data plan is to explain how are you going to exploit the data that you are generated in the project, and with whom are you going to share this data. So, I mean, who is going to have access to this data and under what conditions? In case that, for instance, some data will be not available for some partners in the consortium, you have to explain why. And also here I will include as well, after the life of the project, what are you going to do with the data in terms that who is going to have access to this data, to the full range of the data, or only some part of the data is going to be public. most time the reason for not sharing the data is for security sensitive reasons. But or other questions that could be interesting is that when your project is close to the market, so the data can be confidential for commercial purposes or for future exploitation purposes. In this case, what you can do, for instance, is to generate a data set that can be used for non-commercial purposes for any other, let's say, researcher or organization that would like to replicate or to repeat the experiments that you have done at level of the project. The 4th point is how this data is going to be, let's say, keep it during the life of the project and afterwards. Until how many months, years are you going to preserve and to keep this data? And afterwards, what are you going to do with this data? In some cases, like in the number 5, the data curation and the data acquisition has some cost. For instance, I'm thinking in the space data, data from satellites, or data from other sources which are not European. Sometimes they have a cost. This cost can be small or can be huge. In some cases, like in the case of a space program, you can charge the price of this data to your cost of the project as well. And the 6 points that you have to explain here is how are you dealing with the open data pilot of the Commission? As you know, all the programs from all the sub-programs, let's say in societal challenging and industrial leadership in Horizon 2020, to the moment they have, let's say, since 2 years ago, the obligation of submitting this open data research pilot. But not necessarily, for instance, security. For security is optional. Okay, so you have from the side of the proposal to explain how you are going to deal with this data pilot from Commission. In any case, I think that is very interesting to have a data manager to tackle with all of this. You have here the information, and I'm going to pass now to the ethical aspects, and with 1 minute I'm finished. The ethical aspect, you can find it in your proposal at level of the online form, when you have to fill down an online, let's say, questionnaire, and in the technical description. In the technical description, you can find for sure this chapter in the number 5, which is devoted to ethical and security, which is the last part of the proposal, which no limit page. And also, depending on the research that you are doing, you can explain also in the 1st chapter of excellence what are sort of ethical issues that you can find in your proposal. As I have said, in the part A of the proposal, which is the online formula, you have this formula that you have to answer. In case that you say yes, you have to explain where is this ethical issue, in what page, and afterwards, at proposal level, for instance, in the chapter number 5, or even the chapter number 1 in excellence, you have to explain how you are going to deal with these ethical issues, and to explain and to describe what is this ethical issue identify, and how the project is going to deal with that. In any case, in both cases, I will recommend you that do not try to make like you are an expert on both things. So if you really need somebody that will be a specialist on that, please integrate it in your consortia. So thank you so much.
That was very efficient and very time conscious. Thank you, Marina. So just so you're all aware, it's not too late to ask questions to Marina. We will be addressing questions to the speakers after every second speaker, rather than after every speaker, so that we don't have to stop 6 times. So
okay.
Feel free to ask questions in the Slido. If you didn't get into the Slido yet, or you joined late, again, this is the code for accessing it. K704, and we're now going to move on. Thank you, Marina. We're going to progress to Tamas Yule, who is a former member of the board of directors of Irada. He's also cluster manager of MIENK, the Open Innovation Cluster for Energy and Construction in Hungary. And he's a digitalization expert at Darino, the South Great Plain Regional Innovation Agency. And he wins the award for the longest title in today's webinar. So, Tomas is going to tell us about digital innovation hubs and clusters. As you can see, over to you.
So, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Hi to everybody. And I will try to give you a short summary of our experience in digitization in the next few years. First slide, please, which is about MIENK as the construction cluster that built up an open community on the Hungarian level. This is a road that we have started a couple of years ago with the help of the Smart Factories project in 2018, which helped us to create the Digital Innovation Hub in Kecskemét, which is the town in the center of Hungary. And as you see, we have made some steps that will hopefully lead to MIENK, the national level construction cluster, to become the builder of the cooperative network for sustainable buildings in Central Europe. Our road is shown in the next slide, please, the next one. What we have done in digitization, and our goal is to really contribute to the Intelligent Cities Challenge, which has been started this year with the objective to help European cities to come from digital actions to intelligent cities. And it is very appropriate at the moment because the new European missions include climate neutral and smart cities. So I think that in the next couple of years, our actions will follow this line. And as you see at the bottom of the slide, there is a European Digital Innovation Hub network under formation with the Digitizing Europe program. And from next year onwards, I think this will be the framework for cooperation for innovation hubs. Next slide, please, because it shows how we foresee the cooperation of digital innovation hubs beyond the national borders. There is a project called DIH World, which will start next week. This is a huge consortium bringing together different digital innovation hubs and other innovation players. And this scheme is taken from that application because it shows that clustering between innovation hubs can take different ways. The key point is that digital innovation hubs in a particular region can build professional linkages with other innovation hubs, and the final objective is to serve SMEs not only with their own expertise, but also draw upon the expertise pool of the innovation hub network. Okay, next slide shows how this innovation hub network is taking its shape, because this is the natural evolution that innovation hubs, not only in Hungary but in other countries, especially in Eastern Europe, can take, because the innovation ecosystems on the western part of Europe are quite well developed, but in the eastern side, I think this roadmap, which shows how a competence center can become or can be upgraded to a digital innovation hub, and then afterwards how the regional network can be put together, and the final aim is to arrive to a pan-European digital innovation hub network. So this is the road we are on. I show a few examples of cities where digital innovation hubs are not only under formation but in the course of development. And I think that clusters, not only in construction industry but of course in other industrial domains, are very good partners, or can be very good partners in the digital innovation hub development process. And the digital innovation hub call that I mentioned for the European network will be out end of this year. So I can recommend to all regional economic development actors to try to link to that process, because it is foreseen that the European Digital Innovation Network will be an important player in the next 7 years in the implementation of digitization development actions and the implementation of Horizon Europe activities. So my last slide, which can come now, is about the following or the follow-up of this event. So please show the next one, because I know that this time is very short for giving you comprehensive information. This is why we have decided to make to our webinar on this topic, where of course we will give more details about the points I mentioned you, and also how this whole process of clusters and digital innovation hubs can be linked to the smart specialization strategies of each region. And the final objective is to arrive to a sustainable and intelligent network of cities, which can be an important actor in the economic development in the next years. So thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, I'm ready to answer.
That's really interesting, Tomasz. Thanks. Yeah, I've been so cruel with my short timeframes for everyone that Tomasz has been forced to organize a follow-up webinar for next week. If anyone is interested in that, we will make sure that Urada tweets out the information for Tomasz's follow-up webinar. So if you follow Urada on Twitter, you will be able to find the information for that. I'm just, oh, okay, a question just came in for Marina. Oh, there's 2 questions. Great, this minute. One question for Marina is, thank you to Marina. I wonder under which criteria are evaluated data management and ethics? Is it like a checkpoint, or is it evaluated under the implementation? Your microphone, Marina? We still can't hear you. No.
Now it's taking a little bit, it's slow. Sorry. Yes, in the evaluation summary reports, what I have seen is that the evaluators used to make a reference to that in the part of the implementation. Okay. So in the part of implementation, they put a comment that the data management plan is well addressed to the needs of the project, if they are happy with that. And in addition, the consortium has considered the implementation of the figure of a data manager of the project, which is a person who with experience enough. Yeah, I'm saying you almost literally that the sentence that you can find in an evaluation summary report, but it's true that usually I have seen this comment in the part of the implementation.
Okay, thanks, Marina. We've got a question just came in for Tomasz. It says, Tomasz, how do you see the evolution of digital innovation hubs in regions? Based on your experiences in Hungary, how could RDAs, regional development agencies, be involved?
I think this is definitely a relevant question, because regional development agencies have been important players in smart specialization strategy with various degrees in different countries. And now the Digital Innovation Hub Network is set up, or will be set up, by the European Commission following the same principles: thematic distribution of topics and territorial development. So it would be very logical to make the evaluation of the Digital Innovation Hub Network in each country aligned with the smart specialization strategy of that particular country. Because I mentioned, because especially in Eastern Europe, not all regions have the power to make their own smart specialization strategy as a tool for channeling European funds. In some locations, it is done on national level. Nevertheless, it is still possible to make regional actions within European programs, and regional development agencies can be a key actors for that. I know the case of Romania, for example, where these regional innovation, regional development agencies have their very important role, and some of the digital innovation hubs have a strong connection to the particular relevant regional agencies. So there are good examples of close links between RDAs and digital innovation hubs, but of course regions are different. Therefore, the exact regional administrative settings can be very different. So this is mine.
Thanks so much. And maybe we have two more questions popped up. I do have the option, if we have too many questions, I also have the option of addressing those questions to the speakers after the event is finished. And then we can also make sure to get the answers they give back to the people asking them. So maybe I'll ask one more question for Marina, and then perhaps we'll move on. There is one person who says, Marina, is there an example of a data management plan that you could share? Do you have a
what I can, yes, what I can, because I had only the time with 10 minutes, and so usually I used to make a presentation for my colleagues, my colleagues NCPs in security on data management and security scrutiny things, which is much more wider. So yeah, in that I have some examples, but I have some parts of examples. What I can do also is to share some material where I'm developing the 6 points that I have put that are usually the rationale on what you have to explain at the proposal level. Then I can try to put some examples to each of these parts, but anonymize it, of course.
Okay, perfect.
Because they are real proposals, so yeah.
I should note to our audience that we will be following up on the 3-day course with an email which will include links to the presentation we're given today, and also any other things we want to include, such as an example data management plan from Marina. So in the next days, that will be finding its way to all of you attendees. Let's perhaps take one more question for Tomas, because we have one here, and I think we're doing good for time, actually. Thank you. So question here, I believe it's for Tomas. Wait. I believe this is for Tomas. We are talking about sustainable and intelligent cities, but how about villages? How could a poor region become an intelligent one, and with what resources?
I see. It is a very interesting question in the point of view that it brings us to a very wide topic of cooperation between cities and the corresponding rural area, because very often focus is on the problem of cities, because innovation ecosystems are much easier to build up in a big city with a big university, but especially with the digitization, the information flow is really possible to reach or can be reached at any time and any place within an area. So the rural areas can really become connected to their big city partners via the digital technologies. And the COVID crisis showed us that when obliged, it is possible to make a lot of activities online without physical presence. So in rural areas, I think that the experience of the virus crisis can give ideas or incentives how to connect more efficiently to city ecosystems. So I know that it's a big challenge, but I think that with the new tools that become widespread in the weeks and months of confinement, I think that even that situation can give a boost of development.
Thanks, Thomas. We have one more question for each of you that have popped up. So I've taken a screenshot of those. I will keep them in mind for now. And perhaps also I will ask you to pop up later if there's a problem with any of the speakers, broken microphone, and so on. We need to fill some time. Otherwise, we'll follow up after the event with those question askers. Okay, so thank you very much, Marina and Tomas. Perhaps we'll see you later.
Thank you so much. See you later.
If you stay on the call. So now I'm going to direct the audience's attention to Slido. Again, if you haven't logged in yet, it's K704 to access it. Thanks, Alberto. We're going to poll you on a few questions there in advance of the next speaker speaking. So if you head on over to Slido, my colleague Alberto is activating the questions now, and now you can see them, yes. So firstly, we're just trying to figure out if anyone is interested in joining Tomas. And give them 20 seconds more, Alberto. Yeah. One moment. Okay, perhaps we can, Alberto, can you move on to the second and third questions, please? Okay, so we just wanted to gauge how much you know about the topic our third speaker, Roser, is going to speak about. We have 5, 8, 11 people have already answered. You're very fast. 16. I'll give you half a minute more. Okay, thanks, Alberto. So, could you show us the answers on screen, Alberto? One moment. Well, while we're here we go. Okay. So it seems like a very mixed answer, which is good. So clearly, plenty of you have something to learn from Roser today. And what about the other question? about calls for projects. Great, okay, so I see most people have heard about calls for projects. So, well, in that case, allow me to introduce my colleague Roser Torres. She also works here at URADA. She'll be joining us today from Valencia in Spain. And I hand over to you, Roser.
Hi, Owen, thank you. I'm going to share my screen now, so please confirm that you can see my screen now.
We can see your screen perfectly.
Okay, thank you. So
Great.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Roser, and today we'll be talking about how to be updated about European calls and take part in information days. We launched this survey to see more or less this information I was going to give you will be of interest for you. I think even if many of you have already taken part in information days, I think it will be still interesting for everyone to see more or less what advice I have to tell you. So one of my tasks in URADA is to be updated about calls because I am in contact with our members to try to engage them in projects and find new opportunities for them. So as a disclaimer, I wanted to say that European calls are a broad spectrum and that you need to do your research to find those sources that might be of interest for you and that really give you that information you're looking for. So today I will be talking about my experience searching about Horizon 2020 calls and information days. I first wanted to advise everyone to take part in information days, as many of you are already doing, because these events are organized by the experts of the program and are aimed at potential participants. And it's a and participants can interact between each other and where experts will explain the call in detail, but not only that, they will also give practical advice, such as common mistakes and how to avoid them. And also participants not only get detailed insights into the topics, but also they can benefit from bilateral meetings with other participants, can look for partners, and sometimes they can pitch their project ideas or entities because sometimes many participants of the event, they start working on a draft call, not the definite one, so it's a great opportunity for you to find other people. And also you can ask specific questions to the speakers and also you can approach them. And I wanted to say that after COVID-19, of course, all these events are held online because before many of those were held in Brussels and now being online, it means that there's much more accessibility for everyone else and that they have the same essence as the physical ones because they follow the same dynamics. And of course, networking is still allowed. Many platforms, they implement some video conference tool and you don't have to use other software and it's very convenient. And in platforms such as YouTube, you can use the chat box to promote your agency and interact with others. I also wanted to recommend everyone to subscribe to newsletters. This might be a pretty traditional way of being informed of things, but I'm going to give you some practical links now. And first of all, and most importantly, I wanted to recommend everyone to subscribe to National Contact Points newsletters because they are the main structure that provides you guidance and practical information and assistance for ACE 2020 calls. So you will be updated about events and about any news and any change on any topic. I have put here a link that if you follow it, you will be able to filter by country and function. So I recommend you, of course, to subscribe to your country national contact point, but also to the Brussels one, because as I just said, many events held in Brussels normally, they are held online now and you can attend them. And I think it's very interesting that you can get many insights. And then I also recommend everyone to subscribing to other RDAs and projects under the topics you might be interested in. So here I have linked the funding and tenders portal that my colleague Esteban yesterday talked about. And I have put as an example the free learning of innovation agencies as well. And I wanted to tell you that if you go to the bottom of the page of the topic, you will be able to see all the past and ongoing projects on the topic. And you can click on that, you will be redirected to Coordis, and then you can check the partners of the project, and you can go to their website and just check if they have any newsletter you want to subscribe to. I also wanted to recommend to subscribe to newsletters, and here I have put some practical links that you might be interested in. And I wanted to make here a bit of self-promotion because URADA, as the Association for Development Agencies, we try to, with our newsletter, which is launched monthly, we try to promote as many calls and events we think are interesting for our members. So if you want, you can check our newsletter as well and be up to date with all the events. And finally, I wanted to state some interesting calls for RDAs. And I wanted to say that some of them, as you can see, are closed, but we are positive that for Horizon Europe, there will be this kind of codes very interesting for RDAs, as I said. Note again the peer learning of innovation agencies, because it's a very interesting call for agencies and also for starting with European calls. And the deadline will be in October. And I also wanted to say to everyone that if you are interested on this topic, you can write me and we can start a partner search. And then, yeah, as a conclusion, I wanted to highlight two main things that you might have a look into: taking part in information days, because it might be very beneficial for you, and also to subscribe to National Contact Point newsletter mainly. And here I left this slide with our general information, and in this last one you have my contact. So thank you everyone very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Roser. As Roser said, feel free to contact her afterwards if you have anything to discuss with her. We will also, in our follow-up email, provide the email addresses of all the speakers, obviously all the speakers who agree to provide their email addresses, because we care about data privacy. So thanks a lot, Roser. Roser will be back in 5 or 10 minutes after our next speaker to answer any questions you have for her. So please keep those coming in the Slido. So it's now my great pleasure to invite all the way from Valencia, Spain, again, another colleague of ours at Urada. Her name is Estefania Lopez, and she is going to be telling us about, tell us what you're going to be presenting, Estefania.
Hello everyone, I'm Estefania Lopez. I'm working in Urada since last year, and I'm the person in charge of the new proposal. Last year, I had the opportunity to follow up the previous edition of this summer course, and I must tell you that it's an excellent opportunity if you want to have a wider vision on the European project and start to learn the more basic characteristics on it. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about how to participate in the tenders of the European Union institutions. First of all, you have to have clear what a tender is. Please, Ulises, next slide. Another one, yeah, here. Well, tenders are public contracts used by the Commission to buy services, works, and goods from the market for its internal use. These public contracts are selected via calls for tenders, and that later I will explain for you. In Urada, for example, one of the tenders in which we are part of is Reconfirm, which is the Regional Cooperation Networks for Industrial Modernization Initiative, and its main objective is to assist European regions and industrial stakeholders in implementing their action plan under a smart specialization platform. In this project, they try to connect different regions that are leading in a specific sector of smart specialization, and they exchange their experience and learn one from others. And next, I'm going to show you how you could find a tendering opportunity for you. As you can see in the slide, you will see 3 different portals, because now the funding and tenders portals allows us to search among all calls for tenders and calls for proposals, and they are published in the Tenders Electronic Daily. One of the sections of the Tenders Electronic Daily is e-tendering, where you can find the contractual documentation, technical specifications, annexes, question and answers, and several material that could be useful for you for sure. You can also filter the results of the call for tenders that you want to find. Please, Ulises, next slide. For example, as you can see in this slide, you can look for the title, you can select the contracting authority, the status, if they are open, closed, if they have been cancelled after the publication, the dates. We are going to use, you are seeing the example of Reconfirm, which in this case is closed. And once you have found the call for tenders in which you are interested, you click on it, and they will show you the next window, the window that you are seeing now. On the top of the slide, you can see a short description of the tender, the status, or the award method. And you can find also the deadline to submit your tender. And this part is very important, the most important part, the deadlines. In this case, it was the 9th of June of 2016. And the second part that you can find in this webpage is the document library, On this tab, you will find all the necessary documents for your tender, but the most important is the tender specification. You will download it, and in the tender specifications, you will find a table of contents with the technical specifications, the deliverables, the information requested from the tendering, or the criteria for selecting the bidder. For example, I'm going to show you one of the examples for Reconfirm. This part is the task. They are telling the main task necessary for this proposal. In a practical sense, normally the partners of the tenders divide the task into different work packages, and each work package has its leader. Normally, this leader is the person in charge of writing their part. For example, EURADA normally is in charge of communication and dissemination and exploitation due to our possibilities to connect with different regional development agencies through Europe and beyond, and also to connect with different stakeholders. When all the parts are written, normally the leader partner of the whole proposals gather all the information and shape it to meet the requirements established. As a conclusion, I must tell you that participating in tenders is a great opportunity to be open for funding, and we recommend you exploring this option. And in EURADA, we will be pleased to help you finding partners, promoting your profiles among our network, proofreading your proposals, helping you organizing events, or anything that you need. For example, we have also organized events in the framework of Reconfirm to gather all the different clusters for the meetings. So we will be here for anything you want. I hope this information will be useful for you. Don't forget that we will circulate the presentation, and if you have any doubt, you can write to me. You have here my contact, and I will be pleased to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Estefania. Well, if Roser is there, I could ask her to put her camera back on. Are you with us? Yes. Roser, we already have a question for you. And feel free to add a question for Estefania, if anyone has anything else to ask. Roser, what are the main things you personally have taken away from attending EU Information Days? Do you find there is a plus to attending as opposed to info available online? So is it more valuable than just looking online for the information? I guess is the question.
Yes, if you only want to have information about any topic, you can just search for it in the tenders and funding portal. But as I said, the most interesting thing about these events is to find new people you can partner up with. So what I personally think is most interesting about these events is the pitching session, because many agencies, many SMEs, and many entities, they will present very shortly what they can offer or what they are looking for. So it's a great way of finding so many opportunities.
Great. Oh, hang on. Okay, here's one for you, Estefania. What is your experience of working with private consultancy companies in tenders and service contracts? Estefania.
Well, as I said before, in EURADA, I'm the person in charge of the new proposals or the new tenders. Normally, we are in the previous part, the preparation of the proposal or the tender in this case, and normally we help the partner that are contacting with us, providing them a letter of support, letter of interest. We help them to contact with other stakeholders, other regional development agencies that could help them. And this is mainly the questions that we made in EURADA.
Okay. Another one for you, Estefania. It says, Estefania, how does EURADA go about finding appropriate partners for its tenders? Do you have a matchmaking tool or method? Really curious about this.
Normally, the partners that are looking for other partners, they telling us what they want. So we have internal mail with our members, and we send them an email with information that all the other members are requesting. And if they want contact with them, we are the bridge between one another. They contact with us, and we put in contact the two parts.
Okay, great. Oh, okay. One more, Estefania. Are there specific legal requirements to be part of the tenders? can a regional development agency be part of tenders?
I don't know soon. I think yes, but if you are interested, you can send me an email and I will assure the information and answer for the person who has asked it.
Great, okay, I'll put you two in touch. Then I think that's it for questions. So I'm going to say thank you for now to Roser and Estefania. And we're going to move on to our fifth speaker, who has a slightly longer presentation for you all today. She's been very lucky, gotten at least 20 minutes. So I'd like to introduce to you, this time not from Valencia, she is in Brussels, our colleague at Urada, Ivana Rey Almora, and she is going to be doing a slightly more interactive exercise with you. So I think I'm ready to hand over to you, Ivana. Welcome.
Hello from my living room in Brussels. I may be a familiar face for those of you who attended the first day of Urada's summer course. And I'd also like to say I see some familiar names popping up on Slido, so thank you for joining us today. So today, I'm sharing my screen. I will be talking to you about Interreg Europe and good practices. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
We can see your screen now, yes. It's
Okay,
not maximized, it's not full screen though.
Okay. Is it full screen now? It's kind of low on my end. So
Presentation mode.
okay, there it is. Thank you. All right, so before I continue with my presentation, I'd like to remind you guys to head on over to Slido. The code is K704 because Alberto, could you launch the questions? I have some questions for you guys that I would like to know so that while I'm doing my presentation, we could show the results. So today I'll be giving you a quick overview of the Interreg Europe program, the good practices that are in the program. So you can see that there's good practices and best practices. I know that they mean different things, but in this context, I will be using them interchangeably. And then we'll be talking about the Canvas model, which Urada developed for best practices. And then later on, we will be doing a practical exercise where I will ask you guys to open a browser in your computer and then follow along with me as we do the exercise. So yesterday, we heard from Paula and Zdenek, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, and they talked about project management and being part of a project consortium. So I'm sure you guys already have an idea of what projects are. And you probably also gathered some idea about what Interreg is, especially because Paula mentioned her Interreg project called RACE, and Zdenek is part of the consortium for the Social Seeds project. So, but I would like to hear what you guys know about Interreg. So please, Alberto, if you could show us the results of the poll. Okay, so probably some of you are still answering. Okay, all right, this is good. So most of you have read or heard about it, and some of you are also working on an Interreg project. Okay, and when you hear the word Interreg, what do you think of? Can we see the next one? Perfect. Okay, so collaboration and cooperation are the main words that are appearing, and also border cooperation, good practices, some regions together. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So can we continue to my presentation? There. Okay, so you guys are correct the Interreg program was created in 1990 to formally establish cross-border cooperation, and it is now built upon 3 strands: cross-border, transnational, and interregional, all sharing the same keyword, cooperation. What do we mean by cross-border? So it means it's along internal EU borders, and then transnational covers larger areas like the Baltic Sea, Alpine and Mediterranean regions, as well as some non-EU countries. And then interregional involves all member states, as well as Norway, Switzerland, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. So yesterday, for example, Paula mentioned that for their Interreg project race, they had to get a member for their project consortium that's from Scandinavia and then from Mediterranean. So it depends on which part the project falls under. So there are 2 types of actions in the Interreg program. We have the projects and then platforms. So projects, you guys have a good idea of what it is already. And platforms, later on, we will learn more about the Interreg platform, but they function as a tool for faster and better sharing of knowledge. That's an important thing for us to remember. So good practices. Can we head on over again to Slido to see what you guys think of when you hear good practices? What do you relate those words to? Okay, so when you hear the word good practice, it's a successful practice. Yes, it's a good example. Peer learning. Yes, this is very important for the Interreg project, and ideas. What else? Something to take inspiration from. Replicability. Interesting that somebody mentioned this. Okay, thank you. So let's continue on with my presentation. All right. So what is a good practice? A good practice is an initiative, which could be a methodology, a project, a process, or technique that is carried out under one of the program's main topics. So you will also figure out or realize later that the projects fall under these 4 topics, either research and innovation, SME competitiveness, low carbon economy, or environment and resource efficiency. So the good practices are used either to learn from them, transfer them, or both. And normally, to learn more about good practices, physical study visits are conducted. So study visits meaning we go to where the good practice is being implemented, and then we learn about them on the spot. So we get to ask questions directly to the people implementing the good practice, to the stakeholder actions group. But today, since because of this situation, a lot of projects are forced to hold their study visits online. Like, for example, I am part of URADA is part of the Interreg project Scale Up. And right now we are doing our study visits online. So yeah. Earlier, we talked about the policy learning platform. If you visit Interreg's website, you will find this. And there you will also see the database for good practices, because remember, platforms are a tool for faster and better sharing of knowledge. So there you'll find the good practices, the knowledge hub, and then you get to be part of the community and have access to expert support, where they also provide peer reviews for maybe the projects that you have or some questions that you have. All right. So related to the good practices, URADA created its Canvas model. I have here a short video to better explain what the Canvas model is. So let me play that and we will talk about it after.
To make it easier for institutions like regional development and innovation agencies to gain a wide comprehension of the key elements within the best practice highly transferable, URADA developed its Canvas.
Can we turn the volume up at all, Ivana?
Okay, let me see.
And then perhaps we can restart it if you get the volume higher.
Hold on.
To make it easier for institutions, regional development, and innovation agencies to gain a wide comprehension on the key elements that make a best practice highly transferable, URADA developed its canvas on best practice transfer. Having taken part in several inter-reg projects, URADA assessed over 60 best practices. These were projects which URADA has been a part of from its beginning to end. Like Beyond EDP, which aims to strengthen the entrepreneurial discovery process in Europe, ESPO, which aims to contribute to effective and efficient SME support service portfolios, and Social Seeds, which aims to enhance the social enterprise ecosystem in Europe. Deducing from the earlier descriptions, we can say that the best practices from these projects were on the following key areas. And bearing the question, how can regional development practitioners recognize whether a highly innovative program tested in a region be useful and transferable to their region? The best practices were assessed based on the following criteria. These are also considered to be the most important factors that could determine whether a best practice would work should it be transferred to another region. From the assessment, 2 best practices proved to be the most useful for European public authorities. These are the Regional Cooperative Westerkwartier from Beyond EDP and MarketMate from Social Seeds. This innovative canvas is based on the existing business canvas model that was modified to reflect the vision, structure, and objectives of regional development and innovation agencies. Several canvas models for best practice transfer, like this one from the best practice MarketMate of the project Social Seeds, has been developed, but URADA's role does not end here. URADA can serve as the contact point between the best practice owners and interested agencies who are willing to further study and acquire the necessary expertise to adapt a best practice to their regional context. URADA does this through the following services. If any of the information we have presented interests you, please do not hesitate to contact us.
All right, so in the video, you saw a quick glance of the canvas. This is the other canvas that we created for the project Beyond EDP, the Best Practice Regional Cooperative Westerkwartier. Okay, so maybe some of you are thinking, all right, why do I need a canvas when I could just go to the Interreg policy platform and search for good practices in their database? Yes, you can do that, but the canvas offers you a compact and concise overview of the best practice because there are some information which are not available in the good practice database. Also, remember when we were talking about how best practices can be used either to learn from them or to transfer them? This canvas is specifically to know whether a good practice can be transferred to another region. So if you look at the value proposition, it shows the problem which the best practice tries to solve, to address, and the solutions that it offers, along with the key activities that were implemented which made the best practice successful. And so imagine you're working on a project and you want to know whether a best practice is suitable and should be transferred from, let's say, the region of Valencia in Spain to the region of Attica in Greece. So having this canvas could help give you a quick idea if this is possible. But of course, it's not just the canvas that matters because there are other factors that go into it, but the canvas can help. All right, so the more exciting part, we're gonna do a practical exercise. So we're gonna put ourselves in an imaginary situation. If you could please go to your browsers and then Google this project, InnoInfraShare, and it should please go to their website. So let's imagine that we are working for the RDA of Emilia-Romagna, ArtAir, So they are the leader of this project and they are also a URADA member. So let's see the project website. So let's say that our task is to find a good practice which could help our policy instrument the most. So as we can see, this project is about sharing strategies for European research and innovation infrastructures. Specifically, they want to improve the accessibility and exploitation of local research and innovation infrastructure assets by SMEs. Okay, before we continue, Alberto, please launch the poll on Slido right now, because as we read on, I'd like you guys to read the question there as well, and then we keep doing this too. All right, so as you can see, this project has a consortium of 8 European regions, as we mentioned earlier, led by Emilia-Romagna. So if we go down further, we can see this question: what policy instrument does the project address? So for the Emilia-Romagna region, they want to address this. Support to the research infrastructures crucial for the territory. So this is the policy instrument that they want to improve. Specifically, it needs to be improved to reinforce the professional management of research and innovation contracts, and with the setting up of methods for shared utilization by other research groups, but also directly by companies and SMEs, as well as the definition of tools for knowledge circulation both at local and international level. So if you could please click on the Good Practices tab. Let's open this in a new tab. And as you can see, there are a lot of good practices in this project because each member of the project consortium contributed their best practice. So could you open this one? Materials Business Center from their Swedish partner. And the next one is Series from their Belgian partner. All right, so what I would do to find out which good practice the policy instrument could benefit from the most, I would first read, okay, so let's start with Series. I would first read the good practice description. So Series is a collective center for the technological industry. It is a research institute that helps companies to innovate and bring new products and process. So here you have a very detailed goals and objectives of the good practice. And the next thing I would look at would be the potential for learning or transfer. Because here you would have an idea whether this good practice would match what the policy instrument is looking for. So we'll do the same with Materials Business Center. So here we can see that the center is a platform for providing connections between entrepreneurs, industry, and researchers. All right, so maybe what you guys could do is keep reading the policy instrument again, and then here I will flash a summary of the best practices. And I'll give you guys a few more seconds to answer the poll on Slido. And after you answer the poll, please tell me why that was your answer. So if you put Series as the policy, as the good practice which the policy instrument can learn from the most, please tell me why in the chat box of Slido. So just put Series and then dash and then why, your reason why. And then later on, I could read your opinion on why you chose that. So let's see a few more seconds. Can I just take a look at the Slido? Okay. There. So I see that some of you are still thinking. I'll give you guys a few more seconds. So again, we want to find a good practice which would reinforce the professional management of research and innovation contracts, and with the setting up of methods for shared utilization by other research groups, but also directly by companies, as well as the definition of tools for knowledge circulation, both at local and international level. And then the good practice options that we have are these two. So series, which offers technological support to companies. It helps companies to make the right strategic and technological choices. Its goals and objectives are to stimulate technological research and innovation with the aim to increase the quality and efficiency of manufacturing. It coordinates scientific and technical documentation and informing companies, and it provides innovation support to the related companies. On the other hand, Materials Business Center is a platform providing cross connections between entrepreneurs, industry, and researchers. They are creating an environment where innovations can be initiated, the business's potential within the materials area can be reached, and new opportunities and employment opportunities can be created. The target groups are innovative SMEs, producing or using new materials, and large companies, and academic researchers who want to come into contact with SMEs. So, Alberto, can we see the result of the poll? Okay. Interesting. So most of you answered series with 64% and Materials Business Center with 36%. So let's see why. So some of you chose materials since it is more related to the research needs of the territory in question by stating the sector. Okay. Some of you chose series because they had more contracts with SMEs. And then one said materials as it can respond to the needs of the territory and boost different sectors. Christina says materials because it creates a collaborative environment. Lilia says series is a good practice and materials platform is an instrument through which a good practice could be carried out. Okay, so I guess I should say that there is really no right or wrong answer because ultimately it will be up to the project partner which one they would choose. But if you were to ask my opinion, I would say that the policy instrument could learn the most from Materials Business Center because here it says that they want to set up methods for shared utilization by other research groups, but also directly by companies. And Materials Business Center offers is a platform providing cross connection between these sectors. So again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just opinions. So thank you everyone for participating in today's activity. I hope I was able to share some new information to you guys. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thanks very much, Ivana. We had a couple of questions. I just need to scroll down because many people answered you during the practical exercise. Yes, here is one question for you. It says, Ivana, what do you feel are the main reasons for a regional development agency to take part in Interreg projects?
So Interreg projects, another reason why Interreg was established was in order to find common solutions to shared problems. And so if your region is having a problem with regards to the 4 topics, for example, that the Interreg program covers, like SME competitiveness, you're not the only region with that problem. There are other regions as well. And so together, you guys can work together and find a solution to that problem.
Okay, thanks. And there's one last question for you, Ivana. Someone says they like Eurada's methodology for transferring best practices, but can you elaborate a bit via an example?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Someone likes Eurada's methodology for transferring best practices, good practices, but could you elaborate a little with an example?
Okay, so when we in an Interreg project, when we have there's a template that we follow when we want to share our good practice, and so there are some, like as you saw in the good practice examples that I made you guys open. There are some information, like for example, resources needed, evidence of success, difficulties encountered. So these things gives you an insight, but it doesn't give you the complete picture. That's why in the canvas we have additional information, like for example, the key partners that were involved in the successful implementation of the best practice, as well as the cost structure and the revenue streams and the key beneficiaries of the best practice. So I hope I was able to answer the question adequately.
Okay, that's perfect, Ivana. I'm just going to check again. Here is one last question for you, and then we'll move on to the next speaker. So it says, thank you, Ivana. What will be the future of Interreg in the next programming period, 2021 to 2027?
That's really interesting because on Monday, Eurada organized another event. It was the ESPO final conference where we had the program director, Erwin Seweris. He was a keynote speaker there as well. And this question was asked to him. So I guess I should also, kind of share that answer. And he says that the way I understood it was that the projects will still, despite the situation now, the projects will continue to stay as it is. So there won't be significant noticeable changes.
And I guess if anyone wants to watch that, we could actually, I believe it's online already on the Eurada YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and search for Eurada, you should be able to find that event from Monday. And a reminder, we will also be, I believe we will be uploading all 3 days of the summer course to YouTube as well. So they'll be available to rewatch if there were any parts that you missed or would like to repeat. So without any further ado, we're out of questions for Ivana. Thank you very much, Ivana. And now I'm going to take us on to our 6th panelist. This is, we're very glad to have her with us. It's Agnès Monfré, who is the head of the communications unit at DG Regio, which is the European Commission's Directorate General for Regional and Urban Policy. So if she's able to turn on her webcam and microphone. Are you with us?
I'm with you. Can you? Yeah.
I can hear you. Now we can see you as well. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to meet, not physically meet this year, the participants of this summer school, but it's really inspiring, let's say, to know that you managed to make it happen despite all odds and the pandemic, and that you still gather so many interested people in preparing the best projects that will change Europe and make Europe stronger after what we've gone through. So I understand, like last year, you indicated in the agenda something like read your stars, and I think that's the main highlight. My topic is really communication, because the stars are you, not us. And starting right now, as we are on the eve of the next generation of 21-27 programs, and also on the eve of how we make use of the additional money, means, tools, and flexibility to help address and redress the crisis, I think the key message would be that communication is not the icing on the cake. And as I don't quite know if there are many English colleagues amongst you, but it's not simply the chocolate powder on top of the tiramisu. It's part and parcel of the whole recipe to make your project shine and make a difference for the citizens in your area. And it starts right now by associating them with what they want, what they need in the use of the recovery mechanism, as well as in the design of the next generation of program, as well as the Just Transition Fund possibilities. So the partnership principle, I don't know whether this has been ever mentioned over the last 3 days of the course, but this is part of our DNA as regional cohesion policy. A program should be designed with the population it is here to serve. It's not something superimposed top down from Brussels. It's co-created all together. So now is the time to really have public consultation, focus groups, discussions on drafts, little short crispy surveys to really capture the needs. Because if you respond to the needs, then you will have the best projects, the best program, and then the best projects. So really, really designing together, empowering citizens regionally, locally, to make it happen. Then communication is also information, what the funding opportunities will be. That's when you're more advanced in the programming. And I know in some member states, programs have already been reprogrammed to use the Corona Response Initiative facilities. So this is where we are with new calls, so how to make them. And I've seen, I was listening a little before, you have all those tools available to make it known that the opportunity is here for those with ideas to get support and make it happen. And then when you're even more advanced, even before you get to the results, just providing feedback on how the project unrolls, is being deployed on the ground. Even the difficulties that you're encountering are quite important, and the difficulties that may be caused by a project itself are important. They need to be shared, and there needs to be a discussion around it. I remember one project I inaugurated back in my home country about a year ago in July at 4 a.m. That was a rare mission where we were inaugurating a tram, a renovated tram at 4 a.m., just launching the commercial wagons. And this was one of the major projects in region Normandy for the programming period 14-20. But of course, this renovation had met 18 months of hell for the population of the town of Caen in Upper Normandy, because they couldn't drive the usual way within the town. They couldn't take the tram on its normal path. There was the noise. For shops, it meant that there were less customers entering, etc., etc. They went through hell, but the fact that they were regularly updated, that they could share their publicize and share their reaction and how it affected them, made the project their own project and not just something that comes from God knows where. So funding opportunities, difficulties on the way, and at the end of the day, results. So the visibility, there is not just a billboard with the European flag. There is also the focus in 1420 will be even more so 21-27, and for the Corona Response Initiative, we've offered member states to spontaneously record related actions so that we can account to the citizens on what we do. There is the possibility to really measure impact. What difference has each and every project made individually, locally, and also in an aggregated manner, how it contributes to the priorities defined for your region, for that programming period, and ultimately in your member states and throughout the EU, so in an aggregated manner. We as Commission, what do we do to help? We're not idle. If you invite us, we do our best to come for project inauguration. It will even be a mandatory step in the period 21-27 for projects of strategic importance. And we really try to be there with a colleague who speaks the language, because this is what makes more sense. We also try to promote via our own channels, so the Europa website, where you have a project database, via our social media, EU in my region, be it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, our YouTube channel. This is where we are most active, Flickr a little bit as well. We promote your projects, or you can always tag us and we will promote you. We also have this Regio Stars that was mentioned in the program as a yearly competition of projects. We usually cover 2 programming periods, because with such long-term investment as cohesion policy, you best appreciate the results over time. So this year, the competition was launched in early March, was closed on the 9th of May, symbolically, and it covered the period 27-13 and 14-20. We've had over 200 applicants. The jury met last week, and the finalists will be announced on the 9th of July. And the final winners, including the public choice winner, will be announced on the 14th, Wednesday, 14th of October, during the Open Week of Regions and Cities. I hope somehow physically, but mainly digitally here in Brussels when we deploy the week. We also sell what you do in our campaigns. So we've developed over the last 3 years more external communication campaigns towards the larger public, beyond stakeholders. And that was mainly, still is mainly through super local, well, first the flagship of ours, which is EU in my region, normally very active in May, but this year the open project days have been postponed to September. All the rest of us are largely online, like a quiz, etc. They could be deployed. Second, our EU delivers mini campaign and super local. We are deploying one since yesterday in Friesland in the Netherlands. There will be one in Crete and 2 in Italy, in Umbria. In the course of July, they should have started in March, but we were obviously delayed, had to postpone. And there will be 15 in total in this second edition this year. We've had extremely good results on these ultra local campaigns. We do not aim at reaching large and pan-European audience. We aim at making a difference, and we co-create the visuals, the campaign with the regions, with focus group. We even amend the visuals so that it resonates best locally with the local humor, even a humor that I wouldn't understand if I don't come from the area. And we also have we will have a third edition of our road trip project, which will be a green journey, green challenge this year, starting in the autumn, also slightly delayed because of the circumstances. And of course, anything we can do with earned media, also partnership with media. We have more or less an annual call now over the last 3 years. And these media, the results of the call will be published fairly soon. They've been informed individually this year who are the winners, and their task as recipients of the grant is to simply, with all independency of their editorial line, inform on cohesion policy regionally. This is the focus. So when the list is published, it will be widely promoted via our websites and our social media, and then you can make contact if you wish to interest the media, because they are here to communicate on cohesion. That's what they receive our grants for. Voila, I think partnership principle, funding opportunities, telling on your project, sharing the story of your project as you go, even if it's negative, if it has negative parts to it, and then of course telling about the results. This is what we aim at, to really help citizens realize what is being done for them locally and sell the policy if you wish to keep it. And I think the last months and weeks have clearly shown that there is a strong wish to keep this policy at the heart of the European project, because this is solidarity and this is the help that regions need now to recover from the crisis. I'm open to questions, but thank you already for your attention.
Thank you very much, Agnes. We already have one question for you. So it's a two-part question. They asked a question and then clarified. So they said, unfortunately, communications is often considered a superficial tool, causing inefficiencies in projects. How can we prioritize it with both internally and with donors? And they said, by internally, I mean the very same implementing organization or company does not prioritize it as a key tool to develop and implement in the project. So how can we prioritize it both internally and with donors?
Okay, unfortunately, and I confirm the use of that adverb, because this is a fact, a finding that we share, that even in our job, communication comes as last point, as it does today on your agenda. It also comes as last point in the monitoring committees of programs. So we're trying to push for, and this is the mandatory obligation, the regulatory obligation now, for at least annual discussion on communication, and preferably not at the last point on the agenda where people are tired and starving and looking for lunch, or after lunch snoozing a little bit. I say unfortunately because we are very aware of this bias, this second order of priority, if not a third, fourth, or worse. And we had tried to bring onto the Commission proposal the fact that communication as such would be a criteria in the selection of projects. Of course, programs are still free to do so, some do, but we didn't make it a regulatory requirement. We didn't manage. You can still ask your MEPs to push for that in future. Mm-hmm. That's also an option. What do you mean, and what is meant by donors? So not quite sure I understand. The contributors to the project?
I'm not exactly sure what they mean by donors, both internally and with donors. Perhaps they mean those funding the project. Oh, she says she'll clarify now. Wait, she's typing.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that would be making it a standard point in the monitoring committees and in the subcommittees. And like the EU leaders said in CBU last year, making the policy, the making of the project, and the communication thereof the two sides of the same coin, so that they always go hand in hand. And actually, if you think communication while you're doing the policy, you may think it's smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one influences the other in a very positive, creative manner.
I think while we're waiting for her to finish clarifying, I can say from our side at Urada, I do understand what you're talking about quite a lot, because one of the Horizon 2020 projects I work on has Urada are the work package leader for communications and dissemination and exploitation, and it's work package 8 out of 8. So exactly that thing has happened to us, that sometimes we come last. And
in the meantime, what could be done? I mean, making your project known and sending high definition visuals, sending very crisp, short testimonials from the project holder, you as project holder, but also from people whose life has been changed or should be changed by your project. I mean, let's be very concrete. This is a bit traditional policy, but that's how the policy still is seen sometimes. You're financing a bridge from one side to the other of the river. You could very well turn it into a very nice, human, touching story by interviewing, as project holder, a person on the one side who will gain an hour and a half free time with his or her kids playing football or whatever, because now the commuting time has been reduced significantly, or will be reduced significantly, by your project. So you will affect the life of someone. And this is a very forceful testimonial that would be inspiring, and that would make your project a star, because this is what we aim at.
Okay, we have a clarification from our questioner. He said, I usually work in tenders, services, and funding agencies. I usually work in tenders and services, and funding agencies and beneficiaries do not value communication as a key activity or work package to be implemented. So, yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense indeed, because the even on our websites, these are two different tabs, if you wish, or two different moments. The funding opportunities are ex ante, so you're really talking to the project promoters, and the communication is more on, once you've done the project, how you sell it to people. So it's not totally illogic that for tenders and services, this is not part of their job. Although with artificial intelligence and with smarter tools, we are working towards something that could link better the two.
Mm-hmm. If you have a few more minutes, Agnes, we have one more question for you.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
Agnes, how do you tackle EU and European Commission skeptics via communications? With many people seeing the EU and the EC as wasteful, I can imagine you have a difficult job. So how do you tackle skeptics?
Okay, in our campaigns, we do not tackle skeptics because we have limited budgets. This is taxpayers' money, so we need to make the most out of it. And you will never convince Marine Le Pen, or well, actually she's been convinced of the euro of late. That was not always the case, but you will not, by and large, convince the skepticals. What analysis show is where we can still make a difference is more with campaigns, at least, with our ambivalent citizens, or those who don't know, don't care. Those we tend to target. Now, in the over the last months and weeks, we have had to tackle, nonetheless, and we constantly try to tackle the Eurosceptics. We've set up different task force internally, very informally, very operationally, just spotting the big fake news. So the disinformation that is not intentional and the disinformation that was intentional in several member states. On the European Union is doing nothing to help us. We are dying, our people are dying, Europe does nothing. So we've tried with really customized messages in the language via the representation offices in the member states to tackle that and show the positive side of the EU. So Europass projects co-funded by us, which have totally rediverted their production towards personal protection equipment, so masks, all sorts of masks actually, testing. In Namur there were some I don't know what they're called in English. Des seringues, so to push syringes to ease the process for testing if people were affected by coronavirus. We've had an extension of a hospital in all emergency in Greece. So we've tried to customize the messages to resonate locally and to rebut, if you wish, the myths and disinformation that we were spotting.
Okay.
Also in cooperation with, all services, all institutions. We've had an unprecedented interinstitutional cooperation. So everything has its silver lining. The crisis has had that as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. There are no other questions coming in. So do you have any final words or?
Well, I would only repeat myself. Communication should not be the icing on the cake or the last chocolate powder on the tiramisu, whatever your preferred dessert is ahead of this weekend. And the projects are the stars. You are the stars. So do shine.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Agnes Monfray. So now it's time I'm going to hand over to, you'll remember him from day one of the summer course, Bogdan Celariu, and he's going to give us some closing words. I'll remind you, he is a member of the board of directors of EURADA, and he's head of the Brussels office of ADR Nord-Est, which is the regional development agency of northeastern Romania. So, Bogdan, are you with us? We'll also have some questions.
I hope you can hear me and see me.
We can.
Perfect. So I know we don't have a lot of time left, so I will try to be very, very brief in what I want to tell you now at the end. So I will start with some looking back, some appreciation, acknowledgements, and apologies, looking forward, and then a small exercise with around commitment and what do we want to do with the things we've learned these days. First things first, I would like to say that when I heard first time that we will move online this event, I had a few worries. Obviously, I was totally underestimating the capacity and the creativity of all of you, like the team of EURADA, of the participants, of the speakers. So to be honest, I really want to congratulate you for this transition. It happened very fast and it was very, very successful, I think. Then I would like to special thanks our participants from Europe and from beyond. We know we have some non-European participants. It's incredible that this transition towards online basically opens some windows for the unusual suspects, which is great. We should be obsessed with diversity. Special thanks to all the technical people, to everyone that was dealing with the timekeeping, with the Slido, with moderation, with script writing, with managing everything was simply great. And also important, our apologies if with intention or not, we were clear or not so clear, or we had some technical errors or not. Like, please accept our apologies and please send us your feedback. Like, we would really, really like to hear from you. Now, looking forward, I would like to propose you a small exercise about commitment. Like, okay, we listened a lot of things these 3 days, like about soft skills, hard skills, projects, what happens before, after, what's happening with the data, what's happening with the communication. I would like now to go to Slido and to propose you an exercise where I would like to measure your commitment. And to do this, for instance, I will start with this question: that what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word commitment? Can we go on the Slido?
The question is now active on Slido, so
great, great.
People can
so
make
let's
that
just wait for a few answers. Okay, it's already very, very interesting. Great.
For those of you who may be confused by the 2 questions, you can initially just answer the first question and click submit, then come back to the second question later.
Now we can already go to the second question. Like, I find it quite interesting. So it's just an experiment. Most of you can answer the way they want. Like, after this course, basically, I would like to know what's your opinion about what will happen next. Like, one would be, I will just remember a story from this course. Number 2 will be, I will remember and practice some of the suggestions, but I will keep them confidential. Number 3 would be, I will remember and practice as much as possible, and I will share the knowledge with my colleagues. Number 4 would be all of the above, and I promise to learn something new every week, and that I will permanently improve my life and the life of the 10 most important people around me. And number 5 would be all of the above, plus I promise to use everything I will learn to improve the life of thousands of other people around the world. So, okay, we still have a very, very committed crowd, to be honest. Like, for a Friday, after 3 days of seminars and sessions, I must say I'm very happy with the result. Good. Maybe we should just wait a bit for the votes, but otherwise, I'm very happy with the output. Like, I think now basically the ball is on your side, so it's something that we have to do with all these things we learned these days. Like, and now the final words from my side. Like, I would like to remind you more or less that energy is a choice. So we decide how much energy we bring in a situation or in a meeting or in a project. Also, being present is a choice, and we also consciously decide how active or passive we want to be. Also, building perspective is also a choice, and also sometimes when I question even myself if my work or my projects will make a difference, I always go back to some things that I have next to my office that help me a lot to bring perspective in my work. And just to read you something that I have on my wall in my office is like this, like, if you woke up this morning with more health than illness, you are more blessed than the million who will not survive this week. If you have food in the refrigerator, clothes on your back, a roof overhead, and a place to sleep, you are richer than 75% of this world. If you can read this message, you are more blessed than more than over 2 billion people in the world that cannot read. So really remember how important the perspective, the presence, and the energy are. And now, yes, please start to use everything you learn these days in some future projects and go on with it. You have everything you need to succeed. That's all on my side. Thank you very much for all your work and for your participation. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Bogdan. So I'd like to just remind all of our participants that we will be following up with a follow-up email in which we hope to include any questions which weren't answered during the event. We will also be uploading the event online to the EURADA YouTube channel. That if you are interested in Tamás's follow-up webinar on digital innovation hubs, we will be tweeting out the details to that on the EURADA Twitter account. Just search EURADA. And otherwise, I'd like to give a big thank you from me to all of our speakers today and the previous 2 days, to Alberto for managing the Slido. He's usually in the background. And to Ulises for managing the GoToWebinar platform, to all of the other EURADA staff who contributed to making this event work, as well as the panelists again. And lastly, thank you to you, our audience, for coming, learning, sharing, and staying with us for these 3 days of what was a slightly different summer course to what we previously did in the last few years. So thank you very much. I'd now like to invite any speakers or EURADA staff to join us on screen if they want, to point out perhaps there's something I've forgotten to mention or to remind people about, or perhaps you would just like to wave or to say goodbye. Feel free to join me. Hi again, Bogdan. Then I think that's it. So thanks again. We look forward to perhaps seeing you next year. Perhaps we'll be online, perhaps not. We'll see what happens. From everyone at EURADA, thank you very much.